Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching Security Scan with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Well, India is ready to supply various weapon systems, including missiles and electronic warfare systems to countries in the Indian Ocean region, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said last week. Delivering his keynote address at the IOR Defence Ministers Conclave, he said organizing a conclave of countries in the IOR on the margins of the international event Aero India 2021 shows the importance India attaches to the vision of common growth and stability and constructive engagements with them. Many of the IOR countries are becoming globally competitive and are developing new technologies, including defense shipyards for design and shipbuilding, which can be jointly harnessed through regional cooperation efforts. Indian aerospace and defense industries present an attractive and significant opportunity for foreign companies across the supply chain to take their cooperation to newer levels, is what the Defence Minister said. In this edition of Security Scan, we will analyze Made in India weapons for the world. Joining me on the program today are Dr. Chandrika Kaushik, Director, DISB DRDO, Major General P.K. Chakraborty, retired defense analyst, and Ashok Sajanhar, former ambassador. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Security Scan. All right, let me start the program with you, Ambassador. Let's talk about, Indian weapons before we get into the technology. Let's talk about how there is a demand really from other countries, especially in the IOR and some of the smaller countries who are looking towards India to ensure that we can give them some state-of-the-art weapons.
Well, for a very long time, Frank, India has been known as one of the largest importers of defense platforms and systems. In fact, in the SIPRI report from 2010 to 2014, India was at the number one position. It's 2005 to 2019, India came to the second position with 10% of imports. But as far as exports are concerned, India has not really been present in a very significant manner. For instance, if you were to see, let's say in 2014, India's exports were just about 1,000 crore rupees. Of course, this increased to about $1 billion last year. And then the target is that we would have exports of about $5 billion by 2025. This, of course, will very well come together as far as our overall export effort is also concerned, because when we are talking about a $5 trillion economy by 2025, now of course with COVID it will move forward by a few years, but still in that the component of overall exports would be about $1 trillion. So when we are talking about $5 billion exports of defense equipment, it is not all that significant, but it is very significant if we look at it from our current levels. It's for the first time that India entered the list, as is prepared by SIPRI, entered the list of exporters at number 23 with a 0.2% of global defense exports. That was last year with $1 billion, as I mentioned. So far, we have been exporting basically components and parts to about 42 countries in the world. In fact, not only in our own region, not only in our neighborhood, of course, most of them are to the neighborhood. If you look at Myanmar, I think that takes about 50% of our exports. Sri Lanka and Mauritius, they take up another. So, these are all Indian Ocean region, the IOR countries. But of course, we send our components and parts to faraway countries also, to France, to US, to Germany, and so many others. There are a large number of them that are on the anvil, and Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, when he was speaking at the Aero Expo 2021, he identified a large number of areas, whether it is missile systems, it is light combat aircraft, helicopters, multi-purpose light transport aircraft, warships and patrol vessels, and so on and so forth. There is a huge number that, and we are offering them to a large number of countries. We have also offered in terms of, let us say, the line of credit. For instance, in 2014, when the then President Pranab Mukherjee had gone to Vietnam, we had provided them with a line of credit of 100 million US dollars for purchasing of 4 patrol vessels because they are having problems. Vietnam is having problems as far as the South China Sea is concerned, the incursions into their territorial waters, into the exclusive economic zone. And then when Prime Minister Modi paid a visit to Vietnam in September 2016, then he had offered a line of credit of 500 million. So there is, we have a long-term vision of both domestic manufacture as well as supply of sophisticated defense platform and systems to our countries in the region and beyond. Frank.
Okay. Absolutely. All right. Let me bring in Dr. Chandrika Kaushik into the picture now. You know, from an exports perspective, as far as defense equipment, technology and platforms are concerned, are we looking at anything particular? Are we looking at anything specific? What are our strengths really?
If we look at it, India is today self-reliant in the area of missiles, radars, sonars, EW equipments, communication systems, artillery guns, tanks. With the order of 84 aircraft for LCA Tejas Mark 1, we have achieved that state of self-sufficiency in the area of combat aircraft also. So we are, our specific focus, there have been a lot of inquiries with respect to Akash missile systems, Pinaka rocket systems, and there have been some inquiries for the trainer version of the aircraft also with respect to our variant of Tejas from USA. So a number of systems, in addition to that, sonars, EWs, a number of inquiries are under process, and the Indian industry is today geared up to process these and supply them to the other countries.
Since we are here then, Dr. Chandrika, one quick follow-up question since you brought in industry, you know, so what is the level of cooperation really between the industry as well as the public sector, you know, and how is it that they cooperate, coordinate and, you know, converge to ensure that we can produce some state-of-the-art technology, platforms and services?
I think it is a very healthy industrial ecosystem that is today existing. And both the public sector industries, private sector, the ordnance factory boards, they're working together to ensure that the state-of-the-art systems that are developed within the country indigenously today can be exported. So there are different kinds of models. Somewhere the ordnance factory board is in the lead, and a whole lot of public sector, private sector, MSMEs are in a supporting role. In other cases, certain PSUs are in the lead, and in certain other cases, a lot of private sector industries are also proactively pushing the exports areas, going ahead and looking at niche areas where of export markets. In addition to that, the new policy that we had brought out, wherein our industry partners who are working with us for development of systems, there is no TOT fees levied on them. That will further encourage the industry houses to offer the systems at a very, very competitive prices to the export markets.
Absolutely. All right. General, let me bring you in now. You patiently listened to both the other panelists before you. Let's also talk about the scope really as far as India's defense technology is concerned, defense weapons are concerned, and, you know, how do we take that forward?
Oh, well, I'm very fortunate to firstly serve in the armed forces, being a defense attaché to Vietnam, which has already figured in. I made sure that the HAL, you know, serviced the MiG-21s of Vietnam and many other small items which Ambassador and also our Madam has mentioned. And also, I would say, luckily after my retirement, I was taken in by the DRDO. So knowing both these organizations too well and also knowing what the foreigners are keen on, I think, let me put it to you, forget India. I hope you know Aarti Prabhakar heads the DARPA. Aarti Prabhakar was born in Nagpur. And today, if the United States is looking for modernization, it's through Aarti Prabhakar. And I can name many other persons who are born in India. So we have a brain which can really take us miles. I've worked so intimately with the DRDO and also with the private sector. Let's put it DRDO, public sector, private sector are all outstanding places if we can get the correct ecosystem going. Now, Madam Pinaka, having been involved intimately with Pinaka, which is a combination of DRDO, L&T, Tatas, and then you come into OFB. And also you come to BEML because you've got the Tatra truck. As she has said, people are keen on Akash. People are keen on BrahMos. And it's not only the Indian Ocean region. You please, let's make it India Pacific. Even other countries are very, very keen on our systems, provided we get on to exporting them. And for exporting them, definitely, I think the armed forces have a very important role. We have our defense attaches. I think today I was in Vietnam, and let me put it to you, I even exported the English language to Vietnam and Laos. Now, you would be surprised to know that possibly even that's an industry, you can call it, that we teach tactical English to Laos and Vietnam today. So there is a question, if you get the armed forces involved, we fully understand our weapons are class and our scientists are absolutely top rate. Why did we get into this game of export? Now, what is it? I would like to bring out a few issues. Firstly, you have to satisfy the Indian armed forces, which are the most difficult people to satisfy in terms of quality. Once you get through them, then let me tell you, every foreigner would like to buy the equipment. Now comes in the other issue, the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of External Affairs, to which the ambassador and the lady belongs. All right. Now the MOD and the MEA, once the army okays an equipment, let me tell you, anybody in the world would be prepared to buy it. The Indian armed forces are the most difficult umpires for defense equipment. And if they can, because the point is that they get killed, unlike any other armed forces. So therefore, if today I accept let's say a rifle, now today we are getting from Israel the Spike missile, but we are today making, WEM Technologies is making it with the help of DRDO. Or today, if you take BrahMos, we are getting it from Russia. Let me tell you, many countries want to buy it. But then the MOD and the MEA, the Indian Army has no objection, let me tell you. You tell us we are prepared to give them equipment. They should be also equally inclined to give this equipment.
Okay. So everyone needs to be on the same page is what you're suggesting, and that is one of the challenges that you see really as far as the exports market is concerned for defense equipment. So Ambassador, let's try and address that particular issue as well, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, sure. Exports have never really been on the mental, psychological horizon as far as India is concerned. India is such a huge market. India is such a huge country, even otherwise. Meaning, if you look at it, we have a $3 trillion economy. Our exports are basically 320 billion dollars. So, that's just about 10% of our total economy. The others, in the other countries, whether it is even the United States, China, their export dependence is much greater. Similarly, as far as the defense industry is concerned, we have never really focused on exports. But I'm glad that the realization is coming in now that, exports is a very important and a very lucrative market. And that is why you would see that we are, first of all, decreasing our import dependence. For instance, if you were to look at the SIPRI figures, 2010 to 2014, and then after that, 2015 to 19, there has been a 35% decrease in our imports of defense equipment. As I mentioned, we have increased our exports significantly from 2,000 crores till about in 2014 to about 8,000 crores. So 4 times increase. And now from 2021 to 2025, again, we are hoping to see a 5-fold increase. So I think all the agencies of the government, whether it is the defense forces, whether it is the MEA, whether it is the MOD, I think all of them have to really work in tandem, in unison, synergetically together. And there are a large number of countries which are wanting these platforms and equipment from us. BrahMos was mentioned just now. I understand that this supersonic cruise missile that has been developed with the jointly as a joint venture with the Russian Federation, 290-kilometer range missile. It is the authorization for supplying it to Philippines is now with the Cabinet Committee on Security. There are a large number of other countries that we've been looking at. For instance, it is Indonesia, it is Vietnam, it is Saudi Arabia, it is UAE, it is South Africa. So there are a large number of countries. And Madam had mentioned about Akash, that's a 25-kilometer surface-to-air missile, that's the range. And that also, there are a large number of takers for Akash, including Vietnam and Indonesia and countries in the Middle East. So a huge demand. And in our neighborhood also, you'd recall that there was a line of credit of $500 million that was advanced to Bangladesh. And I understand recently, just last month in January, when we had the visit of the Bangladesh Foreign Secretary to India, then the discussions on operationalization of this line of credit of $500 million for defense, that those were held, and I think we are going to take it forward when the Prime Minister visits Bangladesh in March of this year to mark the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Bangladesh. Bangladesh particularly becomes important for us because it is not only a neighborhood first, Act East policy, etc., but strategically very significant because we have, it is receiving a lot of equipment from China, including the submarine. So that becomes very important. And I think both for earning foreign exchange as also to advance and promote our strategic interests, the export of defense equipment is very much essential.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Let me bring in another aspect as well and take that up with you, Dr. Chandrika Kaushik, that of, how we need to, speeden up the process of delivering some of the products that we take on and how our industry is a little slow really in trying to meet some of these deadlines. Is there any truth to that? How do we address that particular issue? What's being done so that we can pick up the pace?
I think a number of measures have been initiated, some of them in the DAP also, on speeding up the evaluation of the systems that have been developed. There have been provisions and there's been a whole lot of government focus on expediting trials, which takes significant amount of time. So provisions have been made to accept systems based on simulation, studies, certification, etc. And DAP has been very, very positive about the whole thing. In addition to that, DRDO does very, very strong hand-holding of the industries, not only during the development phase, but also during the production phase, where our scientists are tightly coupled with the industry partners to ensure that the systems are developed as per the given timelines. And also the QA agencies are also very, very tightly coupled, and they're providing the necessary quality coverage to the systems. So this has really expedited the overall delivery timelines. In addition, trying to bring in, as General Chakravarti mentioned, that if we can satisfy the armed forces as a customer, then exports is really, really an easy thing for everyone to take on. Towards that whole thing, a number of measures that have really brought in this more close integration amongst the various stakeholders in the ecosystem, be it MOD, industry, the production agencies, the quality assurance agencies, certification agencies, all of them have become much more closely integrated after this government's clarion call on Atmanirbharta and self-reliance. And today we have opened up all the test facilities that are available across all government agencies, including the services, their test ranges, etc., to the industry, so that whenever any industry is looking for a test facility to evaluate the systems that they have been developed, or even for production, it is possible for them to go to that test facility and make use of it. In addition, the list of 101 items that have been put on the no import list. So that itself gives a huge boost to the Indian industry, also to the export market, because once the systems get into the service within the Indian Armed Forces, automatically it opens up the doors for the exports also. In addition, to give a fillip to the Indian industry, DRDO has also identified a list of 108 items that will be developed only by the industry, and DRDO will provide the necessary hand-holding support to these industries for their development.
Sure.
Today, DRDO is working with more than 2,000 industries, MSMEs, including PSUs, OFB, and a very, very healthy ecosystem and close integration is existing between the industries and the various DRDO labs.
Absolutely. All right. So, General, considering how India has progressed over the last few years as far as our defense technology and products are concerned, are there any specific verticals do you think that we need to focus on a little more? Areas that we are doing wonderfully well. For instance, as far as missiles technology is concerned, we seem to be doing fairly well, and we over the years we've developed quite a few indigenous missiles that have done that are state of the art. So, are there any particular areas that we need special focus on going forward?
Well, I mean to say the defense canvas is huge. Particularly, I'll say, the Navy and the Air Force, there's a ship or there's an aircraft. So it's but if you take the inventory of the Indian Army, it starts from clothing and goes right up to small arms, tanks, weapons, missiles, satellites. I would say there's no end to our requirement, UAVs, you name everything the Indian Army needs. And then I must say, with all due respect, the Indian Army is the one which, does most of the, what you call, shall we put it, the main task ultimately is there. So when you look at it, it's a huge sector, having worked very closely while wearing the uniform with DRDO, with number of, what you call scientists and other things, I would put it, that the DRDO is there. But you see, DRDO by itself cannot do the entire, shall we say, shouldering, as Madam is saying. Madam Kaushik is right. Let me put it to you. I'll give you some original ideas. Today, I've got the ultralight howitzer, which is an American weapon. Believe me or not, they are having a factory with Mahindras. Why can't Mahindra make this and now export this to other countries? There's no DRDO, no government, nothing. Just you require Ministry of Defense and Ministry of External Affairs. Next, K9 Vajra. Outstanding state-of-the-art weapon. Right, the South Koreans have given it to us with great difficulty. I know it because one was involved, and I must thank Mr. J.D. Patil of L&T, who really went all over. You can make this K9 Thunder over here. 100 is the order of the Indian Army. What does that factory do thereafter? Similarly, I can come across to the shipyards. Now, we are happy selling 83 Tejas to HAL. Why can't we today have this Tejas straight away offered to some other countries? I don't want to name the issues because, after all, this is a show in the open domain. We get on to all these industries. Like today, for example, Tata is making with Airbus a transport aircraft. Similarly, we get down to all when Tata is making this with Airbus. Why can't some of these aircraft be right now, initial stage itself, be offered to other countries? It's not difficult. I can name the countries. The point is, you don't have to get involved strictly with agencies which are institutions. Today is the day of what you call, multiple domains, as we say in operations, MPO, multiple domain operations. And in multiple domain operations, we have to be something like the DARPA instead of being just a DRDO, which is, doing a lot of work. Tremendous. I think if you go to DRDO and try to meet anybody, believe me or not, even 24 hours appears to be very less. Dr.
Right.
Kaushik would agree on. But the issue which I'm getting, please get the private sector in. The magic lies there. If you want exports of 5 billion, I'm afraid the PSUs, the DRDO, and DRDO getting a PPP is not going to lead you there. You have to get these. You have to get the what you call Mahindras, the Tatas, the L&T. They have to export these, and they will. They are
Sure.
good with the Ministry of Defense. They are good with the MEA. they're good with Rajya Sabha TV also.
All right. Time to get quick closing comments from all my panelists. I've got only 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask my panelists to be brief as well with the best way forward, starting first with the Ambassador.
Well, exports it's no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. Exports, reduce, they increase jobs, they increase the manufacturing base, they strengthen our strategic partnership with other countries. They, when we are manufacturing here, as Dr. Kaushik said, 108 items we are not going to import, 101 items not import, 108 items we are going to manufacture. So I think this is going to give a fillip to our Make in India and Atmanirbharta program. The other is the involvement of the private sector. When I was ambassador in Sweden, there is a whole host of these companies, Kalyani Forge, Mahindra, L&T, all of them are engaged, all of them are doing excellent work. I think we need to promote further involvement of the private sector in this venture.
Absolutely. Dr. Chandrika Kaushik.
I think it's time for us to go towards targeted exports in a very, very focused manner. Towards that end, we are actually making use of the defense attaches that are available in the countries. We have also come out with an export compendium, which was released by Honorable RM during the Aero India show. And both the private sector and the public sector industries are actually giving a very, very focused fillip to the marketing part of it. And industry is taking on a leading marketing role in taking forth these exports. And DRDO is hand-holding the industry in a big way. Secretary R&D has even said that I'm ready to always support the marketing team with a technical team from DRDO for all DRDO developed systems so that necessary focus happens. With respect to engaging with the private sectors, DRDO is increasingly engaging with the private sector, be it the development and production of the gun system or the VAP, wheeled armored protection carrier, those kind of systems. And this engagement with the private sector is continuously increasing, specifically with the new DCPP model, wherein once the services give a specific requirement along with their minimum order quantities, we are able to engage the private sector also, since there is a very, very adequate business case for the private sector to come in.
All right. And General, in 30 seconds, conclude the show for us.
Well, I couldn't agree with the Ambassador and Dr. Kaushik what they have said. In simplistic terms, it has to be a whole-of-government approach in which the government, the DRDO, the public sector, the private sector work together. I think the main actor is the DRDO. They have the intelligence, they have the capability, and they have to really innovate. They have to go from this area of just purely being a development agency or a research agency to an innovation agency. I was very surprised. If they can get on to innovation, they will find the answers to this.
All right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of Security Scan. Thank you to my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.